Welcome, lovely one, to the Meant for More podcast. My name's Lisa Clifford, and I am building the world's most empowering Meant for More movement, leading millions of heart-led purpose seekers from feeling insignificant to invincible. So I truly hope you enjoy this next episode.
Yes, here we are. Welcome to the Made for More podcast. And we've got a little bit of a swap today. Lisa's actually going to be my guest on her podcast. How are you, Lisa?
I'm really good. In fact, I feel like I'm in really good, safe hands, even though I think we're on a roller coaster. I think you're a safe driver of the roller coaster.
They're one of the best roller coasters. It's fine. So guys, welcome. I'm Kelly Tamplin. I'm going to be interviewing Lisa today on her book, How to Be Unstoppable, which is an incredible, I've read it. It's incredible. It's so embodied. I love it. And it's just everything that you are, Lisa, and everything that you teach as well. It's the 14 guiding principles from the fire that transform you. When I was reading through it, I almost could hear your voice in the back of my head talking to me as I was reading through it. And every time I got to the next principle, I was like, of course. So I am going to be talking to Lisa about this book today because it's an incredible read, guys. And if you ever have a chance to, well, you will get a chance to read it and go get it as well. Lisa, first question. Why this book and why now?
A good question. And I think it goes without saying that Kelly's actually a Firewalking and empowerment instructor with me. So this is why she knows me so well. She's trained with me and she's supported me and supported groups. So we've probably spent more time with each other than I have with any of my friends this year. Any of my other friends this year. So when you say this is so me and so embodied, that means a lot to me because you've been in the throne with me. So this book right now has been in the making for, I would say, I hate to say it, since 2018, I think, when I wrote a 21-day empowerment challenge. And it was just full of juicy questions, but there were 21 disciplines, I called it back then. And I've been consolidating it and sitting with it and working with it for so long. And then over the last few months, since the Firewalking instructor training courses, I thought I really need to give graduates and students and businesses and people that come on firewalks what the magic is that the fire holds, that is translatable to life, that it's not just walking over coals and then that's it, tick a box and you're done. It's so much more, and it gives us so much more, does the fire, than we realise. And when we do realise it, and it is in consciousness, then we're empowered. We can take each of it. So what happened was I noticed each principle being embodied by firewalkers over and over and over again. What I would notice is the construct, I guess, of that principle, and then identify it as that guiding principle that I name in the book. And then I decided to write it now. We'll just get it done.
Yeah.
I've been as a lovely lady that was once in one of my circles called Rachel Swan. I've been faffing for too long. And so I just needed to knuckle down and crack on and get it done. And I'm so very glad I did, because I got the energy that went with it. So I thought that we needed a short book that people would think that is accessible and would read, that would give enough thought for the mind, the consciousness, to recognize what was in it now more than ever.
Yeah. And do you know what I love about it as well is the way that you tell a story, the story just brings in each of the principles, and then it's right, how does this relate to you in your life? And then the other bit is like you in the fire and how it relates to the fire. And the way that you've done it, just when I was reading it, it's almost like I could understand it from every single angle. And I loved in it that it's just like when you can't just I can't remember the phrase for it, but why you can't just kind of like logically think through one of these principles.
Yeah. Why talking alone doesn't work.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I love that because I feel so much in my life, and I'm sure that people listening to this as well, but sometimes we can think our way into things. I'm going to do that and I'm going to do this, but it actually doesn't come out how we want it, right? So what was your intention when you wrote this book to put it out? Like, what was the intention behind it?
The intention was for people to, I coach so many people, and what I find myself navigating with them is them seeing who they really are, not who they have to be or what they're trying to change themselves into being, but fundamentally taking them back home to themselves of who they are before the world layered conditioning and programming onto them. So it's a book of people returning home to themselves without me. I hope that through the book I there was a real temptation to over manipulate every opportunity and overstate and over dramatize every opportunity about how important this is, and I tried to pare it back quite a bit because it was really hopefully a freshening of people seeing themselves as they are, not worse, not better, and definitely not some of the stories that you often talk about, the stories that we live by that we can let go of and have a new story. So
Yeah.
my intention was that people were able to be reminded of who they are.
And I really get that when I was reading it, I was like, oh, I was like, this is me, but this is also what Lisa teaches, and this is what I embody. And it was really lovely to see it in like the way that you've done it, and with the questions as well, the reflective questions. I think that was really, really important at each principle, just for you to actually go through it and remember who you are.
Yeah.
Think about when each of those principles are being used in your life as well. So I love that aspect of it as well. So
Because there's one question that I think is in every single guiding principles chapter, which is, where in your body do you feel this?
mm,
Because I'm a massive believer that our bodies are our compass. They give us signals, don't they? Our unconscious communicates through our feelings, and we get a feeling of, oh, something doesn't feel right, or I can't stop, I've got to do it, I've got to say it, I've got to go for it. And I felt it was important for people just to do a check-in on where when you have this thought or when you have this idea, where do you feel it in your body, and just to keep bringing people back to here, to inside, rather than a measurement that's outside. Does that make sense? Of course it does to you.
of course. No, but definitely. And I think as well, it's one of those things that we all need reminders every now and then. And when I was reading it, and as I said, I keep saying, guys, because Lisa is so in this book in so many different ways. Like, even when you're with Lisa in real life, she'll go, let's check in. What are we feeling? What are we feeling right now? Let's check in with ourselves.
Which is great if you're a feeling person. If you're a thinking person, like somebody on the last course was, well, what I feel is, and what I heard was thoughts. And I was like,
Yeah.
no, those are not feelings, those are thoughts.
Yeah, but it was really great to just be, just experiencing that through the book. But in terms of, because at the beginning you talk about, that moment that you feel like you're made for more, and then halfway through as well, one of the principles is about courage and having the courage to move. I want to kind of go back to like your early story of like, when did Lisa Clifford have that moment, or was it a collection of moments where you were like, I'm made for way more than what I'm currently at right now?
Do you know, I remember exactly where I was and how old I was when And I think I might be, I say exactly and then go into I think I might be, but I reckon I was about 9 or 10, and my life was really pretty unique, as many people's are. But it was, my mum was quite poorly and in and out of hospital, and I grew up really fast. And I remember thinking, all of my friends seemed to have families that were really, in most ways, quite connected in together, and I just like I was having such a different childhood to my friends. And I remember thinking, I've got this for a reason. I'm meant to do something really special with my life with this. And at the time, and I knew I loved people and I wanted to work with people, but at the time, we're talking 1917. I don't know why I'm laughing. I'm making myself sound like a dinosaur. But at the time, when you worked with people, it'd be like a nurse. I mean, I would never have been clever enough to be a doctor. And because my brain just doesn't think that way. Even writing the book wasn't my first nature. Talking is my first nature. But I remember thinking, this is no accident that I'm in this experience in my life. And I did, when I was 17, went to pre-nursing school. I couldn't afford to stay because I didn't have a grant and I'd left home, and then started working in hotels. And then again, my next big meant for more moment was when I was working for a brilliant company and I had share options in the company. But I knew, and the company was backed by venture capitalists, so there was constant reviews of that Excel spreadsheet by the venture capitalists that would look at who's costing us more money than making us more money. And because I was in the sales team, and I kept surviving,
Yeah.
it's and I remember thinking at one point, I read a book, and it said, in one of the questions was, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? And I'm now living the life that I wrote the answer to, and more. I mean, there's so much more that I'm doing now that I didn't know existed 21 years ago. So there were those real big two distinct moments when my childhood, I felt like I had a purpose in a way that I couldn't articulate that language. And even though I didn't go on to being a nurse, I did do a lot of voluntary work. And I went into through the hospitality route. I always knew that I was going to land somewhere special. But through all those years, and I know I skirted over it a bit in the book, but through all those years, I lived with so much self-doubt, self-criticism, self-loathing, that I didn't identify as that at the time. It was just my habitual thinking and my habitual perspective and just my white noise. And I did really well in sales, but I had to push through such a lot of internal difficulty in the spirit of appearing successful and confident and likable. And I was putting so much efforting into who I was being and how I was being seen, and yet my inner world couldn't have been more opposite than the world I was hoping to present, the image that I was hoping to present to the world. And and then when I answered that question, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? And it came up with working with people on self-belief, and I love seeing results. I then retrained and then did the work on myself. But I also write about that in the book. I went to be a coach, not to do it on me. I mean, I was going to be the coach, and then little did I know the journey had to start with me. If I was to make the difference I wanted to make, I couldn't bypass my own healing and personal growth and go straight into theory, as I know can be very tempting for people.
And I resonate so much with your story growing up fast, and I know that there's people that are listening to this right now that they're sat there and they're like, I know I'm made for more. And
Yeah.
you're probably living a life, right? Like, because we've done it, where it's just like you're living a life where you don't fit into this. There's something else out there, but that self-doubt, that lack of confidence, and all of those thoughts. And I feel like a lot of people, me myself included, when you look at like successful people, you think that they don't have those thoughts.
Yeah.
But they do. Massively still. They're able to just move past it. And I think if anyone's listening right now and you do feel that, and you know that you're made for more, and you're kind of sat there thinking, yeah, but I've got all this doubt. Like Lisa's living proof that you can be very successful and still have those thoughts and move through them. And I see, like, even just being on your Firewalk trainings as well, it's just like seeing the self-doubt that comes up at the start of Firewalks and how they change and transform through them, come out the end. It's the most beautiful thing. And that's what I want to go into next, the fire. Because when did Lisa Clifford decide, do you know what? I'm going to walk over fire. I'm going to do this.
Well, I'm such a conservative girl. I'm not normally doing anything that's different to other people. But that I would consider, but I did do the Unleash the Power Within with Tony Robbins and walked over fire there, and thought wasn't very good, although he's changed gazillions of lives with it, and I'm no way knocking him. And then one day I just thought, what can I do with people? I felt like I was still being a fraud. This was back in 2007, and I'd only been self-employed since 2004. I still felt like I was trying to be like somebody else I'd seen. And I thought, what can I do with people that they will believe that they can do anything their heart desires without a shadow of a doubt? And a voice in my head said, be a firewalking instructor. And I thought, don't be bloody ridiculous. Be a firewalking instructor. And then I Googled it, and there were courses I could do for a weekend. But it was in October, and it was quite close to my birthday. I was Googling, and I'm the kind of person that I want to do it now. That I call myself Lisa Instant Clifford. Like, I've got this idea and I want to do it now. And but then I discovered Peggy Dillon and Sundar, and researched her, and she brought firewalking to the westernized culture, known as the mother of firewalking. And I thought I should train with her, because this taking people over fire is going to be really dangerous. And I want to, I'm already fighting my own demons about how worthy I am, and, whether I've got it in me to do it. The last thing I need to do is to be trying to wing it on a weekend course after doing a weekend course. Had to wait till the following August. And
when was this? So following August?
2008. So I actually
what month were you in at the moment, at that point?
October. Sorry, nobody knows that my birthday's October. And then when we did the training with Peggy, and I think I mentioned this in the book as well, I thought I was just going to be learning how to build fires. And I thought we'd be sat in classrooms learning how to teach it. And what the experience was so different to anything I'd ever experienced. I mean, I teach the same style now, but so different from anything I'd ever experienced. My whole internal system of being able to recognize what I was going through just wasn't there. I had no reference point of, this is normal, Lisa, this is good. And I spent the whole week wanting to go home, because I just felt like this is so different from anything I've ever done. And I remember the first time we walked on fire that week. I didn't think we'd be walking on fire every night. I don't know why. And I remember Peggy saying, everybody, where's your focus? And the energy and the respect and the spaciousness that there is around the fire, and the capacity it gives for our minds to focus and stop the noise and then walk over the fire, was just such an experience that I would never have got to in a gazillion years by talking. And I do think that coaching and talking is a brilliant way of getting clarity. But I, without a shadow of a doubt, know from seeing and working with thousands of people with the fire, you can't bypass an embodied knowing. And now when I focus, I create a world where everything stands still, so I can absolutely do razor like focus, like an athlete would. And
Mm.
but I couldn't have been talked my way into that or questioned my way into that. That has been such a valuable, and it's one of the disciplines in the book, such a valuable guiding principle of a way of bringing my active focus attention so laser like.
Mm.
What was it like for you when you first walked on fire? I mean, I'm very grateful that you're asking me the questions, but also it's valuable if I may ask you, for you, what did the
Wow,
fire bring for you?
the first time I did firewalking was at a UPW with Tony Robbins, and a completely different experience there to when I came to do it with you at your firewalk training. I would say well, it's always different. It's always so different. But with you, I didn't know, like, this is why I say when like you read this book, you can just see Lisa in it. I didn't know how intentional you were with everything that you do. And I thought, I'm just going to go build a fire. And it wasn't that at all. It was every log, every piece of newspaper, every bit of Kindle is you're intentionally thinking about every part of that. And that's what makes it. And that shifted something in me because it wasn't even then about just walking over the fire. It was, what have we created even just from walking up to the space we were going to build it. And I think when you're in that intentional space and when you put your focus in it as well, when it comes to actually stepping over the fire, you are fully present. And not just
And
because there's
connected.
hot coals there, but because energetically you're just locked in from a heart space, not a head space, right? And it's just, right, I'm fully embodying everything that I've intended for this fire, that Lisa's intended for this fire, and I'm going to walk over this with purpose, with focus, and with heart. And it changed me in so many different ways, and that's why I like trained to be a firewalk instructor, and we do the arrow break and everything like that. It was and still is. Again, every fire is different, but it's just a magical experience if you open your heart to it. And it teaches you so much. And that's what I love about you as well when you teach it. It's what does the fire bring? I've never heard anyone talk about fire like you do, Lise. And you're so passionate about it, but also it's like the fire is there as a mirror for you. You know, it's your teacher. And that kind of thinking when you're around that space, and I know that everyone that's gone through your trainings as well will totally attest to, it brings such a different energy. You can feel it amongst people. And that, yeah, so beautiful. So
Yeah,
beautiful.
I think because you've got the experience of being on other firewalks, um, you know what feels good in your body and in your soul and aligned with your values and how you like to walk through life.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, when I'm round the fire and the fire's doing its work, I feel like I'm asking the questions that the fire's asking me to ask, you know, in our westernized logical way of, you know, how can I serve you is what the fire's saying. How can I serve you? How can I clear the way? How can I energize your path? How can I strengthen you? How can I support you? I feel like the fire is asking those questions. And so when I'm around the fire, I bring those to our consciousness so that we can be intentional and focused and move with action and not just thinking. So that's why we do the action of putting the cedar on the fire or whatever it is we're doing at the time. I think the fire has so much to teach, and that's the reason why I wrote the book. And I wrote it I kind of subtly put the fire part in, even though it is some of the stories and not even the most dramatic stories I could have put in, because I wanted to keep the stories relatable to each of us. In the subtleties, you know, how it's the mirror and how it shows up, how we're we know we bring our behavior that we have in the outside world to the fire, and how it gives us an opportunity to see it and then to be able to reflect on it and change it. And so I wanted a book that showed how firewalking isn't just for Christmas, it's for life. But it's guiding principles that we lift from it are what we can duplicate in life, that brings us home to who we really are, rather than trying to fix something that doesn't meet the outside expectations.
And did the principles come from what you've learned with the fire, or were they part of who you were and the fires just kind of elevated them?
That's difficult to know that way round, isn't it? I think they showed me my own model of being, and then I also then could consistently hear it show up in other people over and over and over again, to where it became really, really visible to me that these, and there'd probably be a whole lot more. And that's the thing, isn't it, about reining it back so it becomes something that people can adapt, access, and relate to and embody themselves without, because it's really tempting to overperform in a book and overprove even in it. And I'm glad that you think I didn't do that, but I do feel like, I should have done. I should have given people more.
Well, I would have wanted more, but what I love from it though is that, like, it doesn't need more. Like, everything that you've done is so intentional, purposeful, all of those different principles that you put in the book, but also it's again reflecting onto who the reader is and where they're at right now. And I think sometimes you can get lost in the stories, but you really reflecting it back, and I think that is also a really great thing that you don't often get in books these days. But I definitely, if I'm going to write a book, I'm going to do it your way, Lisa, 100%. But I would love to know from you, because there's 14 of them in there, like, what is the principle that gets misunderstood the most, in your opinion?
Gosh, sometimes I think people think intention is a goal. I see intention as an alignment. I'm just scanning over them quickly. Purpose. I think people think purpose is a goal. And I think self-trust. I think self-trust is the thing that I teach people the most. That when they trust themselves to come up with the right answers, to trust their intuition, to trust that how and who they're being is just right, it takes away so much of the internal noise of filtering and over preparing, over what's the word when you practicing. And I think that people in the self-trust area, I think the bit that is a fine line for them is, what is fear and what is an intuition to say step away? And that those two are often the most confusing. How do I know that I'm not stepping away because it's fear, or that it actually is my intuition saying, get your hand out of that fire? So and that's why people sitting in their bodies and checking in with their bodies and thinking, right, if it is something that they're going to be fearful about, how will they feel if they don't do it? And if it's disappointed, and if it's that they've let themselves down, and if it's regret, then that's probably fear rather than intuition. Intuition will give you, I think, an immediate feeling of relief, and your nervous system will re-regulate. And how do you explain the difference between fear and an intuition saying step back?
For me, fear is loud and self-trust is quiet.
Yeah.
I think you actually write that somewhere in the book. Maybe I just got it in my brain, but I do feel like when I've got a decision and the fear is like, oh, and the self-doubt and it's all this, and I'm like, okay, I don't know what to do, which way to go. I always get silent, because it's in the silence I'll sit there and I'll be like, right, what if I do this? And how does it feel in my body? And then
Yeah.
it's like, right, how do I feel if I went for this one? How does it feel in my body? Because not only just on a logical level of thoughts, like fear's loud, right? And self-trust sometimes can be quiet in that space, but also in your body, you can notice the difference between when something's not feeling right versus something actually feels okay. And I think that is what I do when I've got big decisions to make, or even small ones, which I'm kind of just like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what's happening here. Yeah, that's how I do it. And that's what I feel really works as well, for me, because I kind of get out of my head and into my body, really.
Absolutely. Our head will send us on a merry dance,
Mm,
and we think our thoughts are facts,
yeah.
and they're really not.
Mm,
They're just thoughts.
yeah.
And
And
so trying on the different perspectives.
yeah, definitely. One thing I do want to go back to, Lise, because I don't want people to miss it. I don't want them to hear it and then miss the magic in it. You said sometimes people get confused with purpose. Purpose is not a goal. What do you mean by that?
So a goal, to be clear about what a goal is something that I guess is tangible, is like an event in our life. I would say to give goal I guess a picture, and purpose is a reason for being. That we align our actions, our goals, our experiences with our purpose. So my purpose is to help people believe in themselves so that they can be truly themselves, their truth of who they are. And a goal would be something that you would do with that. So a goal would be, I don't know, climbing a mountain. These
Yeah.
these these individual components in our life. But having said
Mm,
that, a goal for me has been about living life with peace and calmness and not wanting to disrupt it or sabotage it because it's unfamiliar, just for that peace and calmness and aloneness. To be home for my body, and that the growing up part that I had of disruption and that kind of dramatic feeling was an experience, but it wasn't home for my body, and it was an experience that my nervous system kept recreating. And so a goal for me was that when there is the peace and calmness, that I remember that that's home, and that
mm,
drama that I was more used to and gravitated to and repeated over and over again was a conditioning. And so, and peace and calmness is a constant goal. Does that make sense?
yeah, that makes sense. Definitely. I definitely would love peace and calmness as a constant goal in my life. 100%. That would be beautiful.
And purpose being, I always think that purpose makes sense of our experiences when we have the purpose, that when we can articulate our purpose, then our whole life makes sense. Mainly the times that were less easy than other times.
Yeah.
I think that, and that our we then understand our values, because our values support our purpose. And so we understand why we behave in a certain way because it's in tune. And in the book, we talk about alignment as well,
Yeah.
um,
And values.
and values, yeah, and
Yeah.
self-trust.
And
Yeah.
that was actually one that I wouldn't say I was surprised to see it, because obviously when I read it, I was like, of course. But it was one I think people don't often think about their values. They don't often think about how they're living and what decides what in their life. And that was, that for me, years and years ago, was a really big one. So when I was like, oh, I don't know what my values are. Oh no. When someone asked me, and all of a sudden, when I really sat with it and looked into it, and I was like, how did I how have I been making all these decisions and bypassing everything that does and doesn't sit right in my soul, And where what, how do I phrase this right? What like kind of value for you do you see, like when people come on your firewalk training, they go through their firewalks, what value do you see shifting them the most?
Respect, I think.
Mm.
I think when we talk around the fire about always holding every aspect when you're around the fire with respect, respecting the fire, respecting each other, respecting the space, respecting where your focus is at. I think that people are very respectful, but then they embody respect in a really honoring way that has a knock-on effect on lots of behaviors, like the kind of conversations that we have when we're in circle around the fire. We create this sacred circle of like a bowl that holds us, and that when we're in that we're really considered and respectful about what we bring to the fire and how we infect or affect each other.
Yeah.
So what about you? What have you noticed around the fire?
I was going to say respect, be it, yeah, it was because that I notice about myself the most when you taught me about the respect around the fire, and you just notice it in everyone, like how you, not that you wouldn't respect each other anyway, but just how you talk, how you respect everything. Everything's an intentional movement with respect. Everything is, and yeah, I would say that's probably one of the biggest for me that I learned through the fire.
Because the respect has layers, doesn't it? I'm just feeling into it as we're speaking, because it becomes our nature when we're
Yeah.
around the fire. So then we just become it, and we are then unconscious, aren't we? We're like unconsciously competent.
Yeah.
But what I think respect brings as well is that respect in other people's decisions, in other people's space, in other people's, as they're taking their time to move in whatever way that is, that we respect that, and we are not doing that. Right, you next, come on, do it. In that we're respecting people's inner process of reaching empowerment.
Yeah,
Which is,
definitely. I do, sorry to interrupt,
yeah,
I do feel like sometimes you would see someone right at the fire and your instinct, if they've paused, would to be like, come on, you can do this, come on. But the respect you're taught around the fire, and the respect that the fire teaches you, it's like, I'm going to be silent right now whilst that person has their, as you just said, has their internal process and has that moment of courage for themselves. And it's so different being in different firewalks and seeing the difference between let's go and just the respect of, I'm going to be here with you, and when you are ready, if you decide, like, because you can decide not to as well, but if you decide, we're all here. And I love that.
Because empowerment isn't the walking over the fire. The empowerment is the decision, whether to walk or not. And the action is the evidence of whatever empowerment showed up. So I think that people think empowerment is, well, because you walked over the fire, but actually empowerment is that moment when you processing everything that's going through your mind, for every single person as they're going through all their different layers of all of these guiding principles they're checking in with in different ways, and then they're imagining themselves doing it, and they're also imagining themselves getting it wrong, and then they're also imagining themselves being the only one that got it wrong. And then they're going into their consideration, I'm holding everybody up, I should go or step to one side. And that's why that respect of silence and just holding space and allowing that whole process that is internal and silent to take place, because that is where all the empowerment is taking place. When that person steps up, or before they step up, there's all of that internal stuff going on that somebody's not being disrupted out of. What are you thinking? You're smiling.
Oh no, I just love it. I just love it because I can see it right now, and I like being on the trainings, and I can see it in the workshops that I do, and it's it's that moment, and it's such a beautiful moment, a moment of courage, and I never noticed it until I did this work, until I trained with you in my workshops, because before I used to just do talks, right? But now my workshops are full embodied transformational experiences. And I used to do board breaking and things I did board breaking before, but I'd never noticed it until after your training with the fire, with the other kind of empowerment exercises, that little moment of courage. And I get to watch that on people. And it always makes me emotional when I talk about it, because it's just like nothing else matters in that moment but the focus that you have got between you and the exercise that you're just about to do, between you and the hot coals that are just in front of you. And it's watching someone have that internal process and then do it anyway.
Well, I remember a story. I remember a story that you shared, and what I felt in when you were sharing the story about a group you were working with was that you created this big heart that they all sat in, and I felt like you almost said to them, right, guys, it's just us. We're in this together, and we're going to do some stuff that will transform your life. Are you in? Like that kind of, that the gap between you and them had gone, and
Yeah.
not and there was no gap, and that they were sitting in your heart whilst they moved through. So whilst you didn't say you are safe, you can do it, because I think all those things are quite disempowering language for someone, even though it's quite positive.
Yeah.
I feel like that the way that you are with your groups is that they are connected to you, really closely connected to you. And can I ask you, if you don't mind, which guiding principle have you noticed shows up the most consistently in your work, that your transformational work that you do with your groups?
That's a good question. Let me have a quick reminder of all of them, just because all of them, to be honest, when I was going through it, I was like, of course, of course, of course. Actually say, I would say it's changed. I would say it's changed over the workshops, but I would say it used to be confidence, right? Because I've always taught confidence. Confidence has been my thing. But actually now what I see, I think courage is a big one that drives it. The courage, because courage for me, it comes before confidence, right? It's the moment, like you can't just be confident but not actually take the action. It's like the courage takes the action and the confidence comes through it. But
Well,
it's
that's a
actually
lovely.
truth.
Hang on.
Ooh,
That's the land for people, because that is such a good thing. Because I think people think that confidence is almost like a switch, and then when you've got it, then you'll do the things that you would do with courage. But it isn't. It's the courage that shows up for the action, even though there's fear with it, that then leads to confidence. So
yeah,
good. Right, carry on.
yeah. And
Yeah.
well,
Unpause.
let that land. Yeah, I would say it's truth. I've gone through like such an incredible transformation over the last, I would say, 18 months. Like I'm so different to who I used to be in workshops. I used to be the let's go, let's go, let's go. I'm still kind of like that sometimes, but I think it's more truth. And I think for me, it's witnessing people in their truth as well,
Yeah.
like really seeing them, not from a place of, I'm the facilitator and this is what I know and I can see it. But it's what you've just said before about like, it's being in that connection with them. Like I'm in the room with you and I fully witness you and I fully see you in your truth and you're safe here. And whatever you're feeling, I get emotional again. Whatever you're feeling, express it. Whatever you're feeling in this space,
Be
be
it.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the
Yeah.
you, Lisa.
I love you. So glad the world brought us together.
I
So glad.
know. I
So
know. So
glad.
yeah, I would say truth is a huge one. And I think so much in this world and so much in people's lives as well. If we just told the truth so much more about how you're feeling, what's coming up for you, not from a place of like this is what I'm feeling, and but just from like, this is it right now. And I'm not judging it. I'm not making it mean anything. It is just my truth in this moment.
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah. And that requires us to be really present with ourselves, doesn't it? And
Mm,
life has created this fast-paced world, an instant world, and lots of ways that we've become habitual in numbing ourselves out and
mm,
bypassing certain things. And in that, we end up losing our own sense of truth of who we are and what we are. But when people like yourself witness someone in their raw truth without it being perfect or pretty or, dressed up, and it's witnessed and accepted and celebrated, that lets the nervous system say it's okay to be myself. And as you say, I love this phrase that you have about, they've let go of an old story, and a new story that is better for them is in place of I'm safe to be myself.
yeah.
Oh, you're such a gift to the world, Kelly.
Oh, so are you, Lee. So are you. And I've just seen the time. We've been chatting.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Firstly, is there any question that I haven't asked you that you hoped I would?
Oh, I think this has been an amazing adventure of sitting on the edge of my seat, wondering if I've got the answer to your questions. I think the one thing that I want people to know about this book is how long did it take you to read it without answering the questions that are in it? But how long did it take you?
It took me just about 2 hours.
Wow. So that's what I wanted. I
Mm,
wanted it to be a read that could be done in one or two sittings and then revisited. And then the book, the questions in the book, there's just 3 questions per chapter and 3 things that you're invited to keep in your awareness per chapter. But the questions you can go back and answer. So you might answer a question in chapter one of them today, and tomorrow you can answer the same question again and it shift. And
mm,
so they're not answered, don't answer, you don't have to answer them once and done. They're kind of helpful to guide you with your life continuously. And I wanted it to be a 2 hour read, mainly because of the way that I am with books. That if I think, oh, that looks like a short book, I could do that in a sitting, then I will read it. But if it's a big book, I'll think, I'm going to save that either for best
yeah.
or for when I've got a lot more time. And I don't know, but I do.
Yeah.
So, like the book that I read and loved was Who Moved My Cheese, and I wanted it to have that same principle. And when I researched why that worked for me, I
Yeah.
learned that 60% of people that read books um, only read the first third of,
Wow.
particularly with self-help books, only read the first
Well, yeah.
third. And the kind of the way that people want information these days is where it's uncomplicated, not over facilitated, and is in bite-sized chunks and
Mm,
allows them to make take their own meaning from it. So I try to bring all of that into consideration when writing it, but I definitely wanted it to be readable within 2 hours. And then
yeah.
it gets reread and re-embodied. It gets revisited, and that was its purpose, was it to be more of a tool than one and done.
Yeah. And it definitely is that. Like, I didn't go through the questions. I read it and I was like, I'm going to go through the questions another time,
Later.
like later.
Yeah.
But excuse me, it is just, it is one of those books. Like, I would definitely pick it up again and probably read it again at some point, just to remind myself. And as I said at the start, like the way that you've done it in the sections, like just even the how it relates to the fire, it was really good for me as a firewalk instructor to be like, oh, of course, this is what's been, like, how this principle comes into the firewalking as well. So yeah, it's definitely 2 hours. You could read it in, guys, and you can 100% go back to the questions. Really easy in terms of that way, because I'm with books, I'm like, oh no, I can't read it all, that I can't do this. But it was really engaging. I really loved it. So Yeah, definitely. Well, Lisa,
Thanks,
tell us where can we find it? How can we get
Yes, good
Yeah.
question. I'm
When's
so
it coming out?
It's launching on the 8th. You can buy it on Amazon. I'm doing a lovely bookshop in York sent me a message yesterday saying, I've seen that you've written a book. How would you like to use my bookshop as a signing?
That is
And my
beautiful.
little heart went, I can't do a signing. I'm not an author. Which is an interesting limiting belief surfacing.
Yeah.
That I
Yeah,
will
because you
go and do
also said earlier, I'm not a writer,
I'm
I'm
not
a
right.
reader.
And also when I did these paintings, people say, "Oh, I love your art." I'm like, I'm not an artist.
What? You did paintings as well? These so many
I
talents.
know, but off YouTube. So, so I'm also doing a book signing on the 24th of January, 10:30 to 11:30 in York, and you get free ticket. But because it's not a massive space, it's limited to certain numbers, so the numbers will be limited. But that's really just for us to connect, have a hug, say hello to people I haven't seen in ages, chat about the book a little bit. I'm super proud of it. I have this like little humanness in it that, oh, what if I read it and see a mistake, or what if I read it and wish I'd said it differently, or that kind of over perfectionism. But I'm going to have to leave the baby alone. I can't put it back in the oven. If it was a baby that I'd given birth to, I can't say, oh, it's not perfect enough. Let's put it back in there. You can over mess with something, can't you?
Yeah.
So, Kel, this has been such a great conversation. I felt so self-indulgent, and it's felt like, well, I am talking to my friend, and
Yeah.
just hope I haven't accidentally given all my secrets away.
No, there's still some more beautiful secrets in the book, guys. So make sure that you go and get it. So it's out on the
Thursday the 8th on
8th
Amazon.
on Amazon. Go get it. Let us know what you think. Send Lisa a message, tell her how you get on with the questions as well. And then join Lisa for the book signing later on in the month on the 24th. Yes.
Yes, 24th. Thanks,
Lovely.
Kel.
Thanks, Lisa.
Love you.
Love you. Bye.